The Zelos GT is a watch inspired by the Lamborghini Miura, a classic Italian sports car from the late 1960s, and this new model comes in a few colorways inspired by those cars, like Rosso Red or British Racing Green, and they even have some with carbon fiber cases, but the one I have here is the Heritage model with the Gulf colors. And at the time I am recording this, it's sold out. Actually, all of the models that went up for launch special are sold out except the Rosso Red. Now, I did speak to Zelos and I was told he does have plans for another batch, but that it'll probably be 5 to 6 months for that. I apologize that they sold out so quickly. That is kind of par for the course with Zelos, I guess. But whether they do another run or you're waiting for someone to flip theirs, hopefully this review will give you a better look and feel for the piece. It's a 40mm stainless steel racing inspired watch with, I guess you can call it, a cushion inspired case, a Miyota 9133 movement, a screw down crown, and a link bracelet. Launch pricing for this model was $399, so let's go ahead and check it out. As I said, the Zelos GT was inspired by the Lamborghini Miura, and you can see the silhouette on the caseback, but I originally thought it was a different car. Before I read the website description about it, I assumed this silhouette was of a Ford GT. And for those not familiar with both, take a look at both cars and you could see why I would have thought that. I never realized how similar both vehicles were, and while I love to watch videos about cars past and present, I'm more familiar with the Ford GT than the Lamborghini. Side note about the cars aside, a nice little case back here. Getting into the rest of the watch, I think it's important to note that this is an affordable Zelos watch, and some may be thinking, well, aren't all Zelos watches relatively affordable? And to an extent, I would say yes. Of course, that depends on your finances and what you like to spend on watch collecting. But what I mean is, this Zelos GT, while a very interesting design modeled after a famous vintage race car, it's not a top-of-the-line Zelos model. At $399, it's a hell of a bargain, but there are a few things that could have been done better or certain areas better finished if they weren't hitting that affordable mark. This case design, as far as I know, is a first for Zelos. I don't remember seeing this one before, though with so many Zelos watches being produced, it is kind of hard to keep track. Still, I think this is the first of this design, and it's fantastic. The case is a very contoured cushion case shape, very thin, with crown guards that almost resemble pushers. The screw-down crown, yes, the screw-down crown, not a push-pull like so many would do on a watch like this, is very easy to grip and use, and it sits almost perfectly flush with the top of the crown guards. It is a little toothy though, meaning the edges do bite into your fingers a bit. It's not going to cut you, but it's not as smooth as I would like. This case is very sleek and thin as well, with polished chamfers against a brushed steel, and the length is short at 45mm, yet it doesn't just end abruptly. It curves around the front of the case, appearing slightly longer than it actually is. Of course, the lines and the shape of this case are supposed to mimic the lines and curves of the Lamborghini Miura. This is the Heritage dial. I refer to it as the Gulf dial, but only 3 of the watches have the racing stripes on the dial. This Heritage, the Argento, and the Carbon Supernova. I think all of the versions of the GT look great, but this Heritage was the one for me. This is where it was at. I love the blue and orange combo, and it just sets this one apart from the others. Now that said, the other models, while still sporty, are much more subdued than this one. All models have the the fuel gauge shown on the dial, so you know when to refuel, and the date wheel is colored to match the blue. Now, it may be hard to tell in certain lighting, but the hands, the Zelos logo, and the indices are actually gunmetal coated. When the light isn't bouncing off it, they can look black, especially the hands, and stark light can make them look silver at times, but they are gunmetal. And I don't want to gush here, but I have to say I just really do love this dial. I'm not a race fan really, but I do love cars, and the Gulf colors have always stood out to me, and this dial replicates it nicely, and I just love the orange with the second hand, the outer track, and despite that in-your-face paint color, the dial doesn't feel busy here, there's no unneeded text, and even that power reserve is kind of subtle. I love how the box sapphire plays with the dial as well. The hands are somewhat thin and skeletonized, but fit for a watch such as this, yet only the tips are loomed, but that really isn't a problem. And the reason it's not a problem, if you were not already aware, is that this is a full loom dial. It may not look as such, but in the dark, that entire dial lights up, and I just love how far we have come with paints and loom pigments. It used to be you can only have a full loom dial with that piss-colored paint, but now you can do it with so many colors, and this GT lights up very bright as well, and it looks just as good in the dark as it does in the daylight. The one thing missing, why didn't they loom the date wheel? They color matched it to the blue, but they didn't add the loom into the mix. The bracelet is said to mimic the louvered engine cover, and I'm not sure I buy that, as I've seen this bracelet before, but I will give props to the end links. They fit the case so perfectly and add to the overall design. And the bracelet is nice, no real complaints, but I do feel as far as the look, the satin brushing could be better. It's more of a wide grain brushing, not that nice tight grain. And while it feels okay against the skin, it looks a touch on the cheap side. The clasp is the beautiful Zelos logo clasp, and of course, it has the on the fly extension, so that was nice to see here. But I think I would probably opt to wear this on a nice leather or even a tropic rubber, or maybe even a teal tropic rubber. On my 7.5 inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist, I love how the case wears. The 40mm curved cushion case looks great on my wrist, and it is extremely comfortable. Now, the bracelet does taper from 20mm to 16, and for me, I wish it was a straight 20, so this is another reason why I would probably opt for a strap over the bracelet. The highlight of the Zelos GT are the dials and this curved cushion case. I love the case profile, that dome box sapphire, and of course this heritage or Gulf dial color. Now, Zelos says they used automotive paints for all the dial colors, and while I can't confirm that, this one is really gorgeous, and it's a nice bonus that it's a full loom dial. I also really appreciate that they went with a screw-down crown. That makes this an everyday type of watch for me. Too many brands will make a non-dive watch and do the standard 50-meter rating with the push-pull crown, but Zelos here went the extra mile with 100 meters and a screw-down crown. The bracelet to me was kind of a letdown with the finishing. I like the links in the clasp and those end links as well, but the brushing is a little rough. It's easily rectified with the nice strap, and since the Zelos GT is affordable, not a huge burden. But do let me know what you think of the new Zelos GT down in the comments below. Again, my apologies for this review going up when the watch is mostly sold out, at least for now. Hopefully he does another batch as he said, and I will try harder in the future when it comes to Zelos reviews. But generally, I do go in order of receive to be fair to all brands, and I had 3 others ahead of this GT. Anyways, comment below, ask a question, or let me know if you have one already and what you think of it. Links to a written review and the Zelos website are in the description. Can't get enough of Watch Report? Well, then follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you are subscribed to this channel to never miss another video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.